President Lee Jae-myung presided over an open debate at the UN Security Council in New York, becoming the first South Korean president to chair such a session. The discussions focused on the need for international cooperation in order to address emerging threats posed by artificial intelligence. Also in New York, President Lee met with U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent as the two countries continued to work to finalize details of their trade deal. He highlighted South Korea's pledged $350 billion investment package, a key part of their negotiations to lower U.S. tariffs. U.S. President Donald Trump could potentially make a stop in Japan before visiting South Korea for the APEC leaders meeting in Gyeongju. The visit would provide an opportunity for him to meet with the successor to Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, who's set to step down early next month. Hello and thanks for joining us on Arirang News. We begin in New York, where President Lee Jae-myung chaired a UN Security Council open debate for the responsible use of artificial intelligence, a first for any South Korean leader. Now, this was a reflection of the growing need to address the issue together with the international community. Our top office correspondent Yoon Jung-min reports from New York.
In a time of emerging technology coupled with growing uncertainty, an international dialogue on AI took place at a major platform for multilateral diplomacy. As chair of a UN Security Council open debate, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung started off the session by explaining the significance of the gathering.
오늘날 인공지능 기술의 발전은 우리의 일상을 변화시키는 것을 넘어 국제적인 안보 환경까지 급격하게 변화시키고 있습니다. 이제 인공지능이라는 새로운 위협과 도전에 걸맞는 새로운 거버넌스를 모색해야 될 때입니다.
South Korea assumed the rotating presidency of the UN Security Council this month, and Lee is the first South Korean president to preside over the debate as chair. Drawing a parallel between AI and a tiger cub, President Lee urged the need to use AI to benefit humanity, not to harm it. He called for international unity to uphold the principle of responsible use of AI and emphasized the role of the Security Council, as well as Korea's contribution.
대한민국은 글로벌 책임 강국으로서 AI가 인류의 지속 가능한 미래를 만드는 훌륭한 도구가 될 수 있도록 국제사회와의 협력을 주도하는 길에 앞장설 것입니다.
The wake-up call was echoed by world leaders, including the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, noting the recent establishment of an international scientific panel on AI and a global dialogue on AI governance by the General Assembly.
I will soon launch an open call for nominations for the scientific panel. I also call on governments and stakeholders to engage fully in the global dialogue and to shape inclusive, human rights-based global norms.
Wednesday's session was organized under the theme of artificial intelligence and international peace and security. More international discussions on the future of AI will be held next month, when South Korea hosts the APEC leaders meeting in the city of Gyeongju. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News, New York.
So as President Lee Jae-myung became the first Korean leader to chair a United Nations Security Council debate, he spotlighted Korea's efforts to put artificial intelligence at the center of global security discussions. Our Oh Soo-young explains more.
Setting the agenda on artificial intelligence, South Korea is leading the global discussion on how to govern its risks and implications. President Lee Jae-myung's chairing of the United Nations Security Council open debate on Wednesday highlights the country's efforts to set universal standards on the all-pervasive technology, as rapid advances in AI presents both opportunities and challenges for international peace and security. This comes crucially at a time when larger powers are divided in geopolitical tension and rivalry, according to international relations expert Park Won-gon.
In this kind of a context, the our President Lee Jae-myung's leading role in the AI is very important because we could not see any kind of continue of the dialogue about how to restrain, limit the AI because AI is such a powerful mean and powerful mechanism to change the human history.
Seoul hosted the AI Safety Summit last year, bringing leaders together to establish that progress in AI should empower humanity. The Seoul Declaration sets out safety, innovation and inclusion as key pillars in AI development and calls for collaboration among countries, firms, academia and civil society to cultivate democratic AI ecosystems. In doing so, 16 global AI tech companies, including Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta, and OpenAI, signed the Frontier AI Safety Commitments, which feature risk management, transparency, and accountability. On the security front, South Korea co-hosted 2 summits with the Netherlands on responsible AI in the military domain to develop global frameworks for the ethical application of AI in defense amid growing cyber and hybrid warfare. The 2 countries last year jointly tabled the first ever resolution on military AI, which was adopted with overwhelming support from 165 countries. Going forward, South Korea will once again host a global discussion among world leaders and CEOs at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation meeting in Gyeongju next month. According to the Foreign Ministry, Korea is drafting the APEC AI initiative, which will outline a shared regional vision on innovation-driven growth, strengthening capacity for AI transformation, and encouraging sustainable investment in AI infrastructure. The Foreign Ministry said Wednesday, building on the Yi administration's vision of contributing to a global AI-based society, Seoul will continue to participate in multilateral discussions as a leading country in global AI governance. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
And also in New York on Wednesday, President Lee Jae-myung met with U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to discuss ongoing trade negotiations between South Korea and the United States. Our presidential office correspondent Song Yoo-jin, who's traveling with the president, has the details.
President Lee Jae-myung and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, one of the leading voices of the Trump administration's tariff strategy, met on Wednesday at South Korea's permanent mission to the United Nations. According to the president's chief of policy, Kim Yong-bum, Lee focused on South Korea's pledged $350 billion investment package, a key part of the negotiations to lower U.S. tariffs.
President Lee said he hopes the negotiations will move forward based on commercial rationality and in a way that benefits both countries. He also explained that South Korea differs significantly from Japan in terms of economic scale, foreign exchange reserves, and financial infrastructure, factors he hopes will be considered.
Trade talks have stalled over how that package should be structured. Washington is pushing for most of the investment to be made in cash, similar to the deal it reached with Japan, while Seoul prefers guarantees and loans to help ease its financial burden. $350 billion would account for more than 80% of South Korea's foreign exchange reserves. Japan, by contrast, holds more than double that amount and maintains a currency swap line with the United States. Because of that difference, President Lee has voiced concerns over a heavily equity-based investment without safeguards such as a currency swap.
Unlimited currency swap is a basic prerequisite. Without it, the shock to our economy would be far too great, such as a potential foreign exchange crisis that the president mentioned. If that issue isn't resolved, we simply can't move on.
Kim said Secretary Bessent responded by promising to discuss those concerns with the relevant agencies.
Now, the South Korea's auto exports continue to face 25% tariffs compared to 15% for Japan, following Tokyo's deal with Washington. Eyes are on how Seoul will conclude a trade agreement that is, quote, rational, mutually beneficial, and is in the national interest. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News, New York.
And staying in New York, President Lee Jae-myung also held a bilateral summit with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni on the margins of the UN General Assembly. During Wednesday's talks, Lee urged deeper cooperation with Italy in AI and the defense industry based on their strategic partnership. Meloni reportedly expressed hopes of visiting South Korea to materialize their cooperation and invited her South Korean counterpart to Italy. The South Korean leader also held talk with Polish President Karol Nawrocki. They agreed to further expand cooperation in the defense industry, focusing on tanks, while President Lee said he hopes to expand collaboration on Poland's submarine acquisition program. Meanwhile, President Lee's planned meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron was canceled due to scheduling issues. Meanwhile, Washington says it's pushing ahead with a major liquefied natural gas project in Alaska and is now in talks with South Korean and Japanese companies and other firms in Asia to secure investment. According to U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright on Wednesday, the $40 billion project should begin within the next 12 months. Wright highlighted the short shipping routes to key U.S. allies, saying that the gas will be competitively priced with other LNG sources. The project is a centerpiece of U.S. President Donald Trump's push for what he calls America's energy dominance. U.S. and Japanese officials are reportedly making arrangements for U.S. President Donald Trump to visit Japan next month. Now, this is according to Reuters on Wednesday local time. Trump's visit to Japan could possibly come ahead of his trip to Gyeongju in South Korea for the APEC leaders meeting. This would be Trump's first chance to meet the successor to Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, who is to step down early next month. And on the cultural front, as Egypt and Korea celebrate 30 years of diplomatic ties, the Korean wave Hallyu is booming in Egypt. Led by the passionate younger generation, K-pop is sparking a curiosity in all things Korean. Our An Sung-jin was there.
In a dance studio in New Cairo, one of BTS's hit songs, Bulletproof, pulses through the floor. 6 dancers from local dance crew The Groove move in unison. It's more than choreography, it's a shared dream.
Just like from the first class, I was just like, yeah, this is it. This is gonna be my dream. I won't ever let go of it. What makes me passionate about it is how different and diverse it is.
A love for K-pop, and by extension for Korea, binds these performers together. Their journey reached a high note when they won first place at the Egyptian finals of the K-pop World Festival.
I wanted to show people what K-pop really is and spread it because it's special, unlike any other dance. I want to become a well-known dancer worldwide. It'll take time, but I'll keep practicing. I'm not going to stop.
Across Egypt, K-pop has become more than a niche fandom. Earlier this year, Cairo hosted its first ever K-pop concert, a milestone that reflects the genre's rising popularity. But the Korean wave is about more than just K-pop. The King Sejong Institute, a Korean language center, has opened its 3rd branch in Egypt this year, with growing demand fueled by curiosity in Korean culture. To understand the pull of Korea on Egypt's youth, I spoke with the Egyptian ambassador to Korea.
Now we see from K-pop to the Korean language itself, what do you think drives this fascination among the Egyptian youth population to like Korea or to enjoy Korean culture so much?
These young Egyptians, they are keen to learn the Korean language because they are in love. They have passion for Korea through what they see in the media and in the drama. The Korean culture is very popular in Egypt.
But as the ambassador also mentioned, these cultural exchange could lead to economic benefits too.
This is very good for Korean companies seeking to establish their offices and representation office in Egypt, or even their factories for manufacturing and co-production in Egypt, to hire young Egyptians who can speak Korean and Arabic.
The bond between Korea and Egypt shows how far music, language, and stories can travel. Sometimes 9,000 kilometers straight to the heart. An Sung-jin, Arirang News, Cairo.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories from around the globe. In the Middle East, a Houthi drone strike has wounded more than 20 people in Israel's Red Sea resort city of Eilat. Local officials say the drone launched from Yemen on Wednesday evening struck near a hotel and shopping area, causing structural damage. At least 22 people were injured, including 2 in critical condition. Israel's Air Force attempted an interception but failed to hit the drone. Authorities launched an investigation into the failure. The Houthis claimed responsibility, stating the strike successfully achieved its objectives. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz wished a full recovery to those injured in the strike and added that anyone who harms Israel will be harmed sevenfold. At a United Nations Climate Summit, Chinese President Xi Jinping has pledged that by 2035, China will cut its greenhouse gas emissions by 7 to 10% from their peak levels. Addressing a climate leaders event hosted alongside the UN General Assembly in New York via live video on Wednesday local time, Xi said that the new emissions reduction goal is part of China's updated national determined contributions under the Paris Agreement. He also outlined China's supporting commitments, including the expansion of installed wind and solar capacity to 3,600 gigawatts, which is over 6 times 2020 levels, and an increase in non-fossil fuels to more than 30% of total energy consumption by 2035. In his remarks, Xi criticized some countries for backing away from their climate commitments. The summit comes a day after U.S. President Donald Trump said climate change was a con job. In the United States, the return of Jimmy Kimmel's show after suspension broke viewership records on Tuesday. ABC reported 6.26 million viewers tuned in, marking the show's strongest ratings in over a decade. On social media and digital platforms, Kimmel's comeback monologue gathered over 26 million views. Kimmel addressed critics head-on, clarified earlier remarks, gave a defense of free speech, and pushed back against pressure from President Trump. Finally, Dutch gene therapy company Unicure and University College London announced on Wednesday that their experimental gene therapy has successfully slowed the progression of Huntington's disease, a rare inherited brain disorder, by 75% over 3 years. The therapy works by delivering a modified virus into the brain to silence the mutant gene that causes neuronal damage. Unicure will apply for a license for the first ever treatment drug in the U.S. early next year. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
Unlike yesterday, rain is expected across the Chungcheongdo provinces and southern regions today, with heavier rain in the forecast for the Jeollado provinces. They could see up to 80 millimeters, while Gyeongsangdo provinces might get 5 to 40 millimeters. Skies will clear in the capital area and Gangwon-do province, where the rain has already stopped. So temperatures will jump to as high as 28 degrees Celsius here in Seoul, and southern regions will also notice highs going down a couple degrees, but not that much. And this afternoon, Daegu and Gwangju will make it to 27 degrees. Jeju will be pretty warm at 31 degrees. Looking ahead, rain will return to southern regions in Jeju tomorrow and possibly rain through Saturday. Then there will be nationwide rain on Sunday. Once this final system clears, temperatures will drop and it will feel much cooler, welcoming October.
Now that is all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.